Let's call the meeting to order. Everybody is signed in that's supposed to be signed in?
Yep.
All right. And we've got roll call. So moving on, approval of agenda. We have the agenda in front of us. Is there a motion to approve, or are there any additions or modifications?
I'll make the motion.
All right, so we have a motion to approve, and I'll second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I don't think we have to enter this one, right? For the agenda.
Right, it's just a voice.
Right. All right, approval of minutes. Whoops. Did something wrong here. Okay, here we go. Approval of minutes from the November 15th, 2018 meeting. The minutes were in the packet, or the email bundle that came out. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that also.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections or modifications? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye to approve. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to regular business, item number 1, consideration with possible action to retain legal services to assist staff in the RAD or repositioning of redevelopment of Mason Manor.
All right, that'd be me.
That'd be you.
So let's start with what is RAD and repositioning. I sent the letter in the packet to you from HUD. So what RAD is, it stands for Rental Assistance Demonstration. I think HUD has do these things called demonstrations. This is Rental Assistance Demonstration. The bottom line is we receive dollars to make capital improvements to our properties, Scattered Site and Mason Manor. The amount of money we're receiving is not enough to make the major improvements that we need to on our 50-year-old building at Mason Manor. So what HUD has said is we really want to get out of this business of, trying to find more capital money to make these improvements on our buildings. We want to encourage housing authorities to work with private developers to use low-income housing tax credits and to change how we fund Mason Manor, for example, into a voucher type of assistance, which would allow the housing authority then to get a lot more money to make major improvements in the units and for the utilities that are needed within in Mason Manor in this case. They're not, we don't do these for scattered sites for those individuals. It's more for the larger scale public housing units. And what it really is we're converting public housing into Section 8 project-based vouchers is how this works. So I've got just a little PowerPoint here of some basics. This is voluntary. HUD is not requiring housing authorities to do that. They're highly encouraging us to consider it and to look at it. A number of housing authorities have already done this. I've been told that Milwaukee is totally going over to RAD with their public housing units. And the housing authorities would still own, and we would still maintain ownership in the properties through land leases, or that really comes out in how we set the development up. So we don't lose control of the property. I think that's important to know. And how does it affect the tenants? Why don't you handle this one, Jamie, with regards to?
Sure. So for our income-based tenants, it would not affect them at all. They would still pay 30% of their adjusted gross income. For our flat rent-based tenants, if the rent that the contractor would set is higher, then they would pay gradually increase up to that contract rent over 3 to 5 years, whatever we would put into our plan. Right now, out of the 150 tenants that we have, 17 are flat rent-based tenants. And then, as Cheryl was kind of mentioning, with the choice of mobility, when you move from public housing, you would be under like the Section 8 umbrella. So then after 1 or 2 years, if we go the project-based voucher or the project-based rental assistance program, our tenants would then possibly receive a voucher if they would want to, and then they could choice move to a different affordable living situation. For PHAs, how it would affect us, we would be able to get more housing tools. We could get request more loans through the RAD development for stability. It would increase our rent income. So we spoke to a bunch of housing authorities, and instead of depleting money, they started to make money. So we could, it would help us with that. And then it would eliminate some of the public housing HUD requirements. depending which route we go, whether it's PBV or PBRA, we wouldn't have to necessarily do an annual plan or 5-year plan. We wouldn't have to do a REAC inspection.
You remember those REAC inspections we just got through?
Yes.
With all of our units, so.
Mhm.
that would-
Yeah, so depending
Eliminate
which
that.
way we go, it would eliminate some of those requirements, and it's just more streamlined through the Section 8 multifamily program of HUD.
Some of the requirements for RAD that HUD require, we need to have a physical condition assessment, so we actually have to look at the building, bring a consultant in and see exactly what needs to be done.
To solidify this.
Correct. We have to everything we do falls under the Uniform Relocation Act, so if there is any displacement, which our goal is to be no displacement, but if for some reason there would, we would have to fall under relocation laws with regards to federal funding. We still have to execute pilot agreements, and Davis-Bacon wage rates apply for these types of projects through HUD. We handed out to you a list of the rough estimates for work needed at Mason Manor. And you may recall, last year we talked to you about some issues we were having with our generator and having to replace our generator. Our elevators, we have a roof that needs to be replaced. Basically, the building is 50 years old, so it's to the point now where these major systems are going to need some replacement. So the major systems need replacement. Then also, we'd like to do some improvements for the tenants. We'd like to upgrade the units. We would like to provide upgraded kitchens and bathrooms and flooring and those types of amenities that I think that the tenants would appreciate in the unit. So, but if you look at the rough work of estimates needed, these are not even really the fun things for tenants. These are just our basics. It's about $3 million that we could be looking at within the next 5 years. The cap money that we have right now, looking at that, would be, what do we have, Steph, in our account for capital improvements?
Yes, CFP, or the Capital Funds Program, there are grants received yearly for both scattered sites and Mason Manor. The purpose of these, like Cheryl had stated, is to make those capital improvements to both Mason Manor and scattered sites. I did give you a handout. Over the last 4 years, we have seen increases. This last year, for 2018, we did receive $320,000. That was a significant increase over previous years, but this still, the amounts that we're receiving doesn't come anywhere close to touching the costs of some of these items that we have. And the $300,000 is for both scattered sites and Mason Manor. So, and our scattered sites also need to use some of this money too, so.
Right, yeah, our scattered site units, I think, we did the major remodels 25 years, 30 years ago on those, so now we're getting to the point with those as well. Furnace replacements, roofing, siding, some of those things we discovered, during the REAC inspections that needed to be done. So I guess in a nutshell, I believe we're going to need to have more money than we have now to make those major improvements to Mason Manor. So there are private developers that come in to do this type of work. I know we're receiving emails now from people who want to do these projects. Baker Tilly, I think there's
Gorman.
They're housing developers that want to work on these types of projects. But before we go into that, one of the things we wanted to do and why we're asking today is we'd like to seek counsel, because we'd like to make sure that the interests of the housing authority are met when you work with the developer, because of course it's a development project and they need to meet their needs for the tax credits and whatnot, but we want to make sure that we're protected with regards to ownership of the property and what needs to happen. This is a long process. It is, I think, a couple of years probably to do. You have to apply for tax credits, you have to apply for these units through HUD. They've just increased the number. There was 225,000 nationally, now it's 445,000, because they want you to do this, but it's an application process you have to go through. So this is the very first stage where we'd be looking at drafting some documents to go out for developers to give us proposals on what would need to be done. We would probably have a little bit more information. HUD is, of course, shut down, so our rep for HUD is not available to us. But hopefully it will open up soon, and then we'll work with HUD directly. They've offered that assistance to us on how to go through this process to make it, I guess, an easy one, and make sure that the housing authority is protected. But staff went to Wausau. Wausau has a facility, Wausau Housing Authority did this RAD project in 2011, right?
Yes.
They're a lot like we are at Mason Manor here. There was an $11 million reno. And you can see the contribution from the different funding sources. So the construction was 20 months. They had 10 stories. They started on 10, right, and they worked their way
Correct.
down. And they updated they kept their units. So they kept all the units they had the way they were. They upgraded them. And they added some other amenities for tenants. I think they added a movie room.
A movie, a beauty shop, they updated their community kitchens
Right.
where they host the ADRC meal.
I think there was a project in Merrill that actually was similar to Mason Manor, where they decided to increase the size of their units. So they actually built another smaller complex next to them with like 38 or 40 units. And then Mason Manor, or their housing authority, was converted to larger units. So there's all different ways to do this. It really depends on the financing and the developer and like what's needed within the building. But if you want to run through
Sure.
some of the pictures of just the befores and afters.
Yep, and just kind of touch what Cheryl said. If we start with 150 units, we have to end with 150 units.
Right.
So if we were to expand, like Merrill did, going from 3 units to 2 units, we would have to come up with the rest of the
Mhm.
units. So we made a road trip to Wausau. As you can see, Mason Manor is on the left and Wausau is on the right, and we are very similar building. We have 8 floors, they have 10, and approximately we're just 3 units off. So very, very similar. So this is the Mason Manor kitchen on your left. You know, it functions, it's just outdated. So Wausau has an extremely similar setup to us, and that was their kitchen after the RAD conversion. This is our entryway into Mason Manor on your left. And this is their entryway on the right with Wausau. So as you can see, they completely took off all their closet doors, and in every closet, in every unit, they have those shelving units, and also they have like curtains instead of the doors. So again, it helps with unit turnover cost, and just
Repairs that need to be made on units.
working. There we go. Okay, so the bathrooms, the one, again, on the left is Mason Manor, and then the one on the right is Wausau. So again, just completely updated, new vanity, bathroom, or toilet, shower, and flooring. So this is, on the left is Mason Manor. This is where our hot water heater is, our boilers, outdated with the building. And then the one on the right is Wausau. So just, you know, state-of-the-art technology, updated, clean, workable area.
Have to point it at the
There you go.
There we go. This is our maintenance area for 3 of our full-time staffing. We have one office which holds all of the chemicals. On the back side of the wall is where all of our panels are for electricity. And then this is the new maintenance area in Wausau. So David was very jealous. Organized, much larger planking floor that just hosted all of their equipment. And that is everything.
And so, you know, some of the things we're discovering, and David he's the new guy on the block, right? Is really the construction of the building is
Yeah.
posing some issues in that it's concrete block. We just had actually a water leak in the offices on the first floor. And when that came down, the runs went through concrete, and there were a number of issues that we had with we made that repair, but
Yeah.
the fact that the construction was done in the 70s, I don't know, there could be some better things that we can do with the remodel that would make our plumbing and our electricity more efficient, I think.
Yeah, they actually poured a concrete beam when they put the new elevator addition on. They poured the copper pipes inside the concrete beam instead of sleeving it and stuff, so there was
Yeah.
constant pulling and tearing it apart, plus the chemical reaction.
Lots of hidden
Oh, yeah.
surprises in the property,
That's
so.
all behind drywall and things that you don't know until you get a leak.
Oh, sure.
We're just gonna keep finding more and more.
So I guess what, I think the plan, and we haven't talked to our HUD rep yet about this,
Correct.
but I'm thinking that the first plan would be to draft a document that would be like a request for quote, to find the development team that would work with us. And we may need to do some work ahead of that. We may need to do that assessment need first.
I mean,
I'm not sure how that
I'd like
works,
to
or-
see that happen. You know, regardless of RAD or otherwise,
Mhm.
it's tired, and I don't know if it's $3.2 million tired or $11 million tired, but
Exactly.
it needs some attention. And that has to happen regardless. You
Right.
I mean, we've been wrestling with that and the tuck pointing and the possible roofs and the generator.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
that's,
Just
We're
the-
piecemealing it now.
it's, that's regardless of anything that happens on how you fill the pillows, right?
Mhm. Right.
Just back to, kind of the plumbing, we're still in cast iron waste. And it's probably every 3 days we're chasing a drain. That it's just a constant labor intensive, and sooner or later, it just eats itself up or falls apart. Then you have another leak that you have to mine.
So can you explain to us how they're making more money by doing this? I mean, what's
Probably through the
different?
tax credits. So the developer, I think, makes their money through the low-income housing tax credits.
So what does the developer do in this? What's their involvement, what's their role?
Let me look at the Wausau request for qualifications.
I mean, does the
That they
developer
shared
own
with
the
us.
building? I mean, do
They
the,
lease it.
I think it depends how it's set up, because each one of them could be different depending on the tax credits they apply for or whatnot. Some may own the building with a provision after those tax credits are repaid, it comes back to the housing authority while we maintain a land lease, so we never lose control.
so we're leasing the building to them, they're making money and we're making money.
Yes.
And we're fixing it up.
So I'm.
Some law of thermodynamics.
Yeah,
probably
I'm going back to the old thing, to the old adage, if it looks too good, it isn't good, so good. So I guess I'm struggling where how we change, how we operate makes us money.
Can you go back to that slide with the breakdown of cost on their $11 million renovation? Do you have percentages in there or totals on the percentage?
And I don't think there's any question that we have repairs to make and it's an old building. I'm just concerned about, when we say, well, we're gonna make money doing this, I've been on the board for 20-plus years. And there's always been a need for more money.
Mhm.
And, I don't know, I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's the one.
Go ahead.
So, Bill, that's 60% on tax credits, that's what I mean.
Okay, so they're making money on tax credits.
Mhm.
Where do the tax credits come from?
For Wausau, it was WIDA, I believe, WIDA,
Yes.
9% tax credit
Okay,
application,
and-
so.
And where do they get the money? So, I mean, who decides on what the tax credits are?
That's a state issue.
What do you mean, who decide, like the
Right.
developer decide, I think WIDA has like a 4% and a 9%, they have different applications for tax credits.
So, I guess my question is, who controls what those tax credits are and where the money is coming from? Because it's not us.
Well, they have to apply for them, so WIDA would have to allocate those, much like they do for like the Broadway Laws
So then,
project or.
Where does
Briarwood.
WIDA get their money?
I would think WIDA get their money from the state of Wisconsin,
The
right?
state, and then they get,
So-
Where does
State
WIDA
gets the
get-
money
That's-
from
I-
us.
Siri, where does WIDA get their money from?
So, where I'm pushing this back is,
Mhm.
so WIDA gets their money from the state. What if the state comes up and says, well, we're not gonna fund this anymore?
Right, so the problem with a business plan based on tax credits is what happens when the tax credit goes away. Like who's left holding what.
Right.
I suspect that we can't have those tax credits as we're a public entity and a private developer could, right?
Right.
But I'm guessing. So you sell it to them and then release back, right? So that they're cashing in tax credits on your behalf, which sounds really great.
the other part of how we make money is that right now we use operating funds, which are prorated, which means that we are told that 100%, this is how much money we need to run the program. But we're only gonna give you 84% of that, so you're already in the red before you start out. With this type of a model, there is no proration.
Right.
You get your rents, that's it.
Again, I need to kind of get my head around this and work through it, but it just seems like we're doing the same job, but somehow somebody's making a bunch of money off of this. And I'm not seeing where that's going yet. And I don't want to get us into a situation where we're, again, this seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but this seems to me a pretty dramatic shift in where things are going.
Yes.
And is that politically driven, or is it financially driven? because, you know, I read the letter from HUD.
Yeah.
And it said, under the leadership of Secretary Carson, we're going down this path.
Right.
What happens if we have a new administration in 4 years, 2 years, 6 years from now, and they say, well, we're going in a different direction? Does that leave us holding the bag here with somebody? What if the developer says, we can't make this work, we're out of here, we're done?
So Wausau switched in 2011?
It's very common throughout the state of Wisconsin, Anago, Merrill,
I
Madison.
know,
it's just-
I believe
yeah.
plenty of people are
Mhm.
flocking to it. I want to know about longevity, like how long
I don't
are
think
these
it's that old of a
per-
demonstration.
right,
I don't. So-
which sounds like the risks Bill's talking about.
Mhm.
And I mean, it'd be buried in contract language.
Right, right.
So
Right.
right of first refusals and a backup plan would be outlined in lease language. I don't.
So, let me back up, because this is like way early on.
Mhm.
We have committed to nothing,
Right.
and until we know all those answers,
Sure.
of course, we wouldn't do that. You know, our point is, I don't know, and maybe you can help me out on this. You know, at what point do we bring in the developer
Right.
to pitch us how all that would work?
Mhm.
You know, or do we wait for HUD to open up again, and do we bring like a HUD rep on a conference call into our next meeting to maybe explain how it's worked in other communities?
That sounds.
You know, but
better
HUD is
than-
driven by,
that
of course, their
sounds
directives,
better than
but-
asking the guy who's gonna make a bunch of money off of it to tell
Well,
us what
that's my
it's
point,
gonna
you
be.
know, because until a developer actually comes, until you pick one,
Mhm.
or they at least give you the pitch on what their proposal will be, we don't really know what that's gonna
Right.
be.
Right, some-
So it's one of those
some
cart and horse situations.
Third-party review would be handy
Right.
there.
That was
Just
my,
legal.
that was my.
Yeah, well, and again,
And maybe we don't need that, maybe
Well,
I'm
no,
sure
I-
you could do that, I don't.
I don't have any problem with that part of it. You know, it's not, you know, it's not the attorneys make a buck deal here, but
Right.
it wouldn't be, I would like to see someone that could give us some advice on answering those questions from a legal perspective of, you know, because it just seems to me that we're doing the same job, and somehow there's this concept out there that we're not changing anything, but somehow somebody's gonna make money off of what we've been doing, and we've been doing this for decades and haven't made any money on it. And now suddenly, there's a change in
Right.
some policy somewhere in Washington or somewhere, and suddenly, developers are gonna be making money. That just seems a little concerning to me.
Well, and I don't, like, our goal isn't to make money,
Well, I
other than
understand.
cover our costs.
Right.
Our goal is to
To
make
survive.
repairs.
Our goal is to survive.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think that's what most of the housing authorities go, because they've just seen, because I don't know if our caps have gotten, I don't know if we have, regardless of the administration. I
Right.
don't know if our caps have covered us. you
Right.
know, even in the
Right,
past.
probably
anyway.
not.
So I don't know, you know, hopefully that would get better maybe with the new administration, but you never know, I guess. That's the iffy part, but
Right.
I can't not speak to you on the development portion,
Yeah,
on the
I
tax
understand.
credit and the pros and cons to that.
Right.
So, next step would maybe, do you want us to try to reach out to HUD or to Wausau maybe? Because Wausau's
Both.
willing, I mean, I think
Why
we
not
work
both?
with them.
Yeah,
They
they're-
Why
might
not
be willing
both?
to come in.
But at the same time, I mean, you're looking for this, an RFP out to legal counsel to help. I don't think there's any problem with starting that process. We could maybe get somebody on board that can help us, you know,
Navigate.
navigate, yeah, through some of the bigger questions.
Right.
Because to be honest, I'm not convinced at this point.
Okay, well, right.
Obviously, other people are doing it, and they've been convinced, you know, and I'm sure they're looking out for their best interest as well. They wouldn't have done it if they hadn't been. But I need to understand how this all works, and, because it just doesn't seem, it seems to me that it's driven by a change in policy. And my concern is, what if the policy changes somewhere down the road? Is that going to have a negative impact on us in some fashion? Are we going to get hurt by that? And I
Right.
obviously don't want to see that. I want to understand how this is all going to work, so that if there is a change in policy, is there an avenue built into the system that allows us to extricate ourselves from this without going bankrupt, or
Right.
without jeopardizing the best interests of our customers, which
tenants,
are the
right.
tenants, yes.
Right.
Because
And
we
is it-
want to, regardless of what happens with policy,
Right.
we want to be providing public housing well beyond when I'm here. So, I
Right.
mean, that's the
Right.
long-term goal. So
Mhm.
I think the approach of getting a legal counsel in here that knows what they're talking about with this stuff from the background, that can explain it, not somebody who's necessarily pushing forward to go down this path.
Exactly.
Somebody that can say, here's the pitfalls in that path, do you really want to take those
Right.
options? What are your
Right.
options?
And that's what our goal, because we don't fully understand how the tax credit development will
Right.
affect the housing authority.
Okay.
So, and, right, when you get the developer's pitching the
Project,
program,
right,
the project,
right.
so, which is great, but when you get down to that level, we should be confident in what our expectations are before that point, so.
Okay, so.
But the point was, is if this body said, no way, we don't like it, we would stop working on it.
And I don't think we have
You know, we wouldn't go
enough
forward with
information
looking at this
Exactly.
process, so.
Information to say one way or another.
Mhm. Right.
On a related note, last fall, didn't we formally hire somebody on a T&M basis for facility work, right? We hired a firm. right?
Mhm.
Can we employ their services to do a facility analysis so that we could legitimize what?
We will need to, as part of this process, have that, figure out what the needs are for the building, so regardless, we could do that.
I mean, I think we need it.
Right, these are just, some of them we have estimates, some are just ballpark, I mean.
Right.
So we did hire that company.
We did.
To do engineering work, right?
Burner and Shoulder we brought in for the generator, because they
No,
were.
We
not for
contracted
the,
AGL.
right, there it is.
And there are the problems, like with that beam encapsulating the copper, that was their project, so I think we need to look elsewhere. I think there could be some problems.
Right,
up
BSA, actually, I think worked with us on the generator.
Right.
I mean, that's why they carried over on that.
Yeah, no, I
Before,
also
but yes, we
actively
do have.
pursued that project.
Yes. Yes, we would do a contract with AGL.
So, again, I would like to hear from Wausau and from HUD
Okay.
whenever the government reopens, and they're available. So if we could do that for some future meeting. And then we've got the issue in front of us for legal counsel. And I will move to approve seeking an RFP on that.
You don't actually have to RFP for
Oh,
legal counsel.
well, true, but.
We have the city's actually done that, they've got kind of a book of vetted attorneys
Oh,
that they
okay.
outreach for, so I'd probably just work with you
Okay.
on trying to find someone
Sure.
that's worked on this
Okay.
before.
Right, so, let's see, the actual agenda item is consider possible action to retain legal services to assist staff.
In the consideration of this, so that doesn't commit to
Well,
us going
what I-
forward on it, or?
Right, what I'm looking for is maybe to, we're not gonna RFP, so, I mean, would we be checking this out, like what, who Wausau use, that kind of thing? Okay.
Like, I'd like someone that has actually done one of these.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and understands the,
Yeah,
works.
yeah, okay. Well, would you be bringing proposals back to us from different law firms that we can take a look at? Or would we just go out and hire somebody?
That's up to the board.
Okay.
I mean, an RFP for, I could get some names. I don't know how
Yeah.
much of a process we need to go through for the RFP. but-
And I don't even know what that begins to cost. Why don't we reach out for a little bit more research and find somebody that has done it, and they can say, oh, yeah, now get a lawyer, it's relatively cheap. Because
Yeah.
that seems like something you'd say about that service.
Yeah. I guess what I'm thinking of is just get some proposals from, RFPs again, from some attorneys or law firms that have done this, and have them send us some information of what their background is, and, well, yeah, but a response to the request to a proposal type of thing, so what kind of services have they provided, what's their experience in these kinds of things, and then we can select from that.
Okay, so authorize us to do that, though, so then we
Right,
can start that.
right.
Next, okay.
Yes, so that's my motion.
Okay.
I'd second that all day.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further questions? So we understand we're gonna get some documentation from experienced law firms saying what they can do and what kind of advice they can provide us. And
Correct.
And what their
Cost.
rates are, their costs are, and we'll, and again, keep that kind of confidential as it goes through, but we'll, so that's our motion. I guess we have to vote on this one, right?
Yeah.
So how do we do that?
It should be pop up.
So we have a motion and a second.
I think it comes to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you should be prompted on your screen.
All right, there it is.
It's like magic.
And then do we have to hit save?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Vote and then say.
Passed, good.
So to be clear, I want to make sure, so we're going to work on getting some proposals from attorneys who have done this in the past. We're also going to reach out to other communities that have done this for some information, and then hopefully maybe get some information from our HUD rep, who is willing, I don't know if he'll come here, but we can get him on a conference call
Conference
maybe
call.
for the next meeting.
Great if
Okay.
he can be here, but conference call is fine.
Okay, sounds good?
And again, you know, the government shutdown is all kind of iffy, but I mean, even if we have, it's a pretty big deal, so even if we need to have a
Right.
special meeting.
Right.
I think that's appropriate just for this topic.
Correct.
And.
This is a very big project and process, so I think we all need to be on board. Yep.
And again, information seeking at this point, just so
Mhm.
we understand the road we're going down and what our options are.
Yep.
Again, with the intent to make sure that we're protecting our tenants and our mission.
And our ability to continue that for a long time.
Right, absolutely. All right, moving on to item number 2 under regular business, consideration with possible action on writing off delinquent tenant accounts.
As you know, this is something we do regularly, once we have tenants that have moved out and they have a balance due from move-out charges or other charges. We keep them on the books for so long that we do try to write them out of the books, but the debt does not go away. I continue to track them and seek repayment of the debts. But we did have some here that I would like to get out of our accounting system,
Okay.
so it clears it up. That was in your packet. Does anybody have any questions on it?
Well, this is sort of routine financial maintenance here.
Compared to last year.
It's a little bit higher in recent manner than last year, but I think that some of that had to do with, we cracked down on a few things and we charged for things.
One of our HUD, when we were monitored by HUD, they had asked us to change some policies to be more uniform in how we gave notices. So I think the notices were coming out more, I guess, in a standard operating procedure format, so.
All right, I will move to approve the write-offs as presented. Packet. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
We have a second? We need to vote.
You can vote. Okay, motion approved.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, consideration with possible action on approval of June 30, 2018 audit report.
That was sent out to you, but you also have hard copies at your chair. The audit went well, no big issues, no findings. So all in all, they were happy with how things went. I believe that they didn't have any issues with Jamie's files or anything like that, so.
That's always a sigh of
It's
relief,
always a
isn't
sigh of
it?
relief.
I didn't wrote it down.
So I won't go through this because I'm sure that most of you will find it rather than.
I did have a question
Okay.
on something, but I found the answer to it, so I don't have a question.
Oh. Got all excited.
Oh geez, me too.
Oh, yeah, I see too many of these. All right, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'll second. So we have a motion and a second. Time to vote.
And if you don't want to take it with you, just leave it here and I will file it.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, moving on to informational. Item number 1, GBHA bills.
There was a rather large section of bills since we skipped a meeting in there, so everything is pretty much normal, nothing out of the ordinary. It's nice to see that we repaid some security deposit and people are cleaning units before they leave, so that's always nice.
Right.
Do we have to do these separately, or?
I don't think there's any-
I think there's no
There's
motion
no-
on them, they're all informational.
Yeah. So I'll just move to accept and place on file. Is there a second?
Heck, yeah, second that.
Motion to accept and place on file. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to number 2, GBHA financial report.
Those were also
Yeah.
sent out in your packets. Are there any questions?
None for me.
I feel like the print keeps getting smaller every month.
Yeah.
It's just me.
I just keep getting bigger glasses every time I go to the store.
Yes, as we go through and I get more accounts in there.
Right.
That's
That's right.
All right, I will move to accept and place on file.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a second. Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Langen report, also in our packet.
That is also in your packet. We continue to pull up of our waiting list, send them to Langen, and then they also do any of our investigative report for
Okay.
our household.
All right, so that's an outside report, right? Just put it in the file, so we don't need to vote on that. Housing update report, number 4.
Okay, we just did some numbers on the year, 2018 year in review. So FYI, we've had 57 new lease-ups last year, 42 were for Mason Manor, 15 for scattered sites. We had 46 total move-outs, 34 Mason Manor, 12 scattered sites, 2 transfers within Mason Manor due to accommodations, but I think the big number is the average unit turnaround for Mason Manor was 29 days. And for scattered sites it was 35, so that's a huge improvement and we make us very happy. So
Yes.
we're turning units around like we should be, which is good.
I mean, somebody's working pretty hard.
That's right, that's right. And we've collected about $13,500 in fraud recovery, about $5,500 for Mason Manor and $8,000 from scattered sites. So we've been able to at least collect some money back on some folks who were fraud in the system. So.
Are those judgments or those actual dollars in hand?
Those are dollars in hand.
Wow.
Mhm. So,
Where do they come from?
Some of them are trips, some of them are people that have decided that they want to get back on a program somewhere and they can't do it without paying me off first.
they come and make monthly payments.
Yep.
I know on the BCHA side, I've been signing probably 2 or 3 of those judgment satisfactions a week
Mhm.
lately, so.
And it'll pick up with tax season right around the
Yes.
corner.
Okay, very good. Good work. All right, number 5, occupancy report for the month of January 2019.
Yeah.
Also, in your packet,
Yep.
we've had quite a few tenants either move out for medical reasons, that assisted living is now where they need to be, so just general move outs, a few with non-payment of rent, just holding tenants accountable. But we continue, like Cheryl said, to turn around units and lease them up, and our Mason Manor waiting list is starting to be depleted. We have roughly 43 people on that, and then we have the scattered sites broken down as well. We do have a lot of 4-bedroom units coming up, so we will need to really reach out into the community and solicit some applications for good quality tenants in the future. But we are doing great and continue to have a high lease-up rate.
All right, Any questions? All right, and that again, I think he's filed, we don't need a motion to approve that, so this is the commission report. So, all right, moving on, last item, date for next meeting, February 21st, 2019. Anybody have a problem with that? I haven't looked out that far.
Our public hearing will be that date as well.
Okay. It'll be a good meeting. Lots of info.
Ah, yes.
Right?
And again, if we need to have a special meeting on any of these things,
Right.
let us know, because I'm
Okay.
certainly willing to do that.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, we are ready for adjournment.
So I would make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, very good, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Yeah.
I have something very weird.